The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Bryan Broaddus, Voch Lombardi, and Derek Eagleton.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Break. We are here live. This is presented by LG. I'm here with Voch and Bryan Broaddus. We're back in the studio. Derek is still at camp. The Cowboys are still at camp. They'll be breaking down camp on Thursday and coming back to Dallas. So that should be fun to have everyone back in the norm in the studio, getting ready for the season. But the Cowboys did play their first preseason game. They lost against the Rams, 31-21. We all know the score doesn't matter at all, but the game is here to analyze, to fully evaluate these players. So I want to start the question with you guys. Who was the player that stood out to you, that caught your eyes, that you're like, this guy, he might not need to play the next two games?
I think everybody that played should probably play again and play some more. These are guys that need a whole bunch of reps, and that's most likely why they got those reps. Now, I am curious, and later in the show we can kind of talk about this, but not so much as the guys that played, but more so like when they played. Like, okay, Robert Rochelle and Booth were first, but Israel was with the second half team. I'm just kind of curious about why some of those guys, like when they went was more like interesting to me. But for the most part, everybody needs a lot more reps. The guys that didn't play, I was expecting Tyler Booker and company to play, but maybe the thinking behind that was we just had this rough practice with the Rams, so maybe we don't have to see this. I'm not quite sure what Coach has to say about that. I'm sure that they'll ask him, but the guys that played this week definitely going to play some more next week, plus some more, so we'll see.
Zion Childress needs to start at nickel corner for this football team, and we'll see what happens, with Hall, but there needs to be competition for that spot, and I'm just kind of wondering, guys. Is the answer for this going to be, okay, then you're going to get Bland to play. They're going to figure out, okay, who's the opposite corner? We know it's Elam, Bland, and now who is that nickel corner? But to me, I think there needs to be really some open competition there. The Rams clearly had an idea. In a scrimmage, you're kind of like, oh, man, they're picking on guys here. And I think they were picking on Hall a little bit. And, with 4 targets, 4 receptions right there, I don't think he was as comfortable playing in this thing. And we'll see. Let's see if Childress, let's see some others. This team desperately needs somebody to come back from injury. They need Carson, somebody like that to come back. I think, to me, everybody's asking me, well, what about going out and getting somebody, Broaddus? I think they're going to try and address this with a couple of different guys, Butler and Carson, and see if they can do it that way. It might not be good enough, but this nickel cornerback spot needs to be reevaluated and opened up for competition. I agree with Voch. Everybody that played in that football game the other day needs to have another crack at it against the Ravens this week.
So, Bryan, let me ask you this. The coaches said we're coming out with our 7-iron. We're not really showing too much. And, the one thing that kind of whooped the Cowboys on defense, just in my own personal opinion here, is the ball came out quick. Yeah. So there was no real pass rush. And when they ran the ball, they double-teamed everybody inside, right? So do you think that maybe the corners would play better if coaching-wise, right, we'll say, hey, maybe we shouldn't give up so much room, because the corners play off a whole bunch. Yeah. And the Rams were able to get that timing off. They was able to get those faster, quicker throws off. So Donovan Ezraku is a guy that we were looking for to make some sort of pass rush impact. We didn't see anything from him or the other edges. They were close. They were almost there, but the ball was out so quickly. Do you think that the cornerbacks will play corner better if the pass rush was better for them?
I thought when they played zone coverage, they were not very good. Sure. I mean, to me, with linebacker depth and then corners in zone were not particularly good, and that's where, when you talk about depth and where guys, how are you driving on the football, how are you reading it? Are you coming forward and all that? Yeah. And, to me, that was. There were opportunities. I felt like the main thing was, it looked like to me pressure was going to come twist front and then it was going to be, okay, let's try and twist as a Raku. Let's do something like that.
Sure.
Let's bring Leofau as a blitzer. We saw that.
Ball's gone, though.
Ball's gone, yeah. And so, but if you're going to play a lot of zone coverage, be able to drive on the zone, drive out of the zone. I felt like, to me, there were linebackers. I felt like that Damone Clark went back to kind of some of his old ways of playing football. I mean, he didn't look really aware in some of the coverage stuff. You saw some balls that were thrown beyond the linebackers and corners and safeties not reacting quick enough. That to me is, if you're going to play zone, react. I just felt like in that game they didn't react quick enough for the coverage things they were playing. So that might be to your point, though.
Sure.
How do you create more pressure? And there were a couple of times where they're close. I thought, you look at
Houston.
You look at Houston and how he was able to play a little bit there. I felt like that Tyrus Wheat. When you look at him, I think Tyrus Wheat had a good game when it came to the pass rush and playing run defense. He was really one of the more complete defensive players that you had in that game. So maybe some scheme will help them. But, man, if you're going to play zone coverage, react quicker to the ball. It looked like, to me, a lot of staring in the backfield. And then when Bennett let it go, there were guys that were – the separation was they couldn't make up for it.
Well, I think on both sides of the field, overall, there are a lot of things to work on and areas of improvement for this team. But let's start with the quarterback position specifically. Joe Milton, he's a guy that everyone has been wanting to see. He has some ups and downs during training camp, not necessarily being precise a lot of the times, but you do see him have a very strong arm. He's able to run. He's very physical. He has those characteristics that you hope he can show up on the field on a game and perform. He put it on later in the game, and then we did get to see a little bit of Will Grier right at the end of the game as well. But starting with Joe Milton specifically, what is your assessment, your analysis on the way that he played that day?
Well, the thing about Joe Milton is, and we're going to try not to be told you so type people here. We're just going to tell you what happened. Joe Milton was always a guy that's developing, that's working on himself. And there was this conversation when Joe Milton first got here, like, hey, he still may have to earn quarterback too. I know a lot of people ate the cheese and they may not like number 4, and they thought that this was going to be an easy way to get Dak up out of here. I don't think Dak felt any kind of pressure at all coming from Joe. If anything, this was Joe versus Will Grier. And Will may not have the physical traits that Joe has, but Will can kind of make those throws. He can keep things simple. He can hit the layups, keep things on the rail. And then if it's wide open for me, I can scramble for a touchdown and things like that. Joe has to hit the layups, and it's all like processing with him. We all knew he can throw the ball 80 yards, 60, 70 yards, velocity. But sometimes you got to take velocity off those throws. Sometimes you just got to, those throws. Flournoy and me and Bryan had this conversation a bunch. We thought that with Milton, at least that we had a quarterback that can give wide receivers looks now. Yeah. So we could properly evaluate these guys. Flournoy would be having a fantastic day right now if he would have caught those 2 wide open passes he had. Right. So, Milton has some room to grow. He didn't quit because he did throw a touchdown to Valdo Fairweather in the 2-point to Holden, and those 2 passes had some touch on them, but it's like consistency with Joe, and that's his biggest,
Yeah, I think the thing with Joe is you saw the best and the worst of Joe, and to me, that where Joe's decision making, I think you can question. And when you have a third down situation and there are 4 options, 3 of them are really, really good, and the one is the most difficult throw you can ever make, and he takes option 4. That's troubling right there. That's a guy that hasn't played a lot of quarterback or hasn't played a lot of NFL quarterback. He's trying to fit the ball inside to Tolbert when he's got options underneath, whether it's a tight end, another receiver. Voch talked about the play. You've got to reward your receivers for getting open. You got to reward them for the release off the line and their ability to get down the field. He was able later to do that, though. If you look at with Holden, Holden did a great job later in the game along the sidelines of keeping the route wide, and now that allowed Joe Milton to fit the ball in between the safety and behind the corner. Those are the kinds of things that you need to do. Voch mentioned the touchdown pass. Nice touch play. Off his back foot, off balance. Those are the things that Joe is very capable of. but you've also got to be able to see, like on the 4th and 3 run, you've got to take the ball and you've got to go and you've got to try and get the first down. You have to dive, burst, whatever you have to do to go get that. Wow. You make the throw on 3rd and 3, the previous play to that. You go for the Tolo ball when you maybe had the route, you had something underneath where you could have checked it down, and then all of a sudden it's a first down. You're keeping things moving. Joe does spectacular things. Joe does crazy ass things too. And that's what you kind of get with Joe Milton. You could get some beautiful football, and then you could also get that, what is he seeing and what is his decision making and what's his process going through right now? That's something that's going to have to be refined.
Now, Brian Broaddus, let me ask you a question. Joe Milton threw the ball 29 times, okay? And we opened up the football game throwing 6 times in a row.
That's on the coach.
Do you think that's the coaches just trying to get him reps, and that's not what a real Cowboy game plan to look like? Because they've been preaching run the ball, run the ball, but Joe's throwing it a bunch, not even setting up Joe's throws with the run. Do you think in a real life situation, Dak's going to come out throwing the ball 7, 8 times in a row?
This bothers me so much, guys. This is the thing that bothers me the most, and you have to know the condition of your team as a head coach. And I said this very early in that game, the Rams were punishing you with the number of plays they ran. Yeah. Your defense was gassed. You go 2 3 and outs in a row, and fortunately for the Cowboys, they were able to find some things. The defense would have been a damn mess. So to me, that's on Brian Schottenheimer right there. Find ways to kind of, okay, if you want to mix in a run or two like that, just kind of keep things, give Flus and those guys a chance to catch their breath, maybe make some little adjustments, whatever they want to do, get the scheme back in order, try and kind of figure some things out. But to go out there and throw 6 straight passes like that and have some of them just be crazy type passes that should have been, that's on the head coach. That's on the play caller. And maybe he was trying to get them back in the game and kind of see what Joe was going to do. But with Joe, that's probably the worst thing you could do with him, making him have to try and force the ball, because he'll damn do that. But I take Brian Schottenheimer needed to look at himself a little bit and say, hey, my defense is a mess right now. Yeah. I need to do something to try and help them a little bit. And I don't think he did initially with the first 2 series that he called.
Ambar, do you think that this is a competition now? Like, is Will Grier, is there a possibility that he can fight his way into being quarterback too? Or you think we're just locked in with Joe as the second guy?
Is that a serious question?
Sure, 100%. You damn right it's a serious question. How I say that in Spanish?
I don't know. I thought you might be kidding. I don't know how it would be locked at all.
If we get 2 more weird Joe Milton games and we get 2 more solid Will Grier games, I think it's worth talking about. I mean, Joe looks like he's locked in.
I've been wanting to see Will Grier again since the moment he came back, and just mainly because the way he left his last game here with the Cowboys, it was a preseason game.
Phenomenal.
That was where he played such a great game. Yeah. Dak Prescott was the one calling the plays that game. So that just gave me something worth waiting for, or when he got back and signed with the team. I think he's very much capable of taking that role and doing that job. I was pleased with what he did in that game. However, I would have liked to see more of him earlier on to where it wasn't all the way down to the end, but I think he'll get more opportunities. I just don't think right now Joe Milton has the place locked.
Ambar, I like what you're saying there. I think if they had to go win one game, Grier would play. Yeah. I think if they had to play the season, I think they would go with Joe Milton.
Give him the reps.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead. Oh, already 14. Let's go.
We do this.
Man, I was about to jump into the next question. Let's take our first break, and when we come back, let's get into the running back. What is currently happening at the running game and the running back position after the break?
AT&T has a new guarantee, because most things in life are not guaranteed, like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman here. As the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys, you know I take cookware seriously, especially when it comes to America's team. So when the Cowboys are away, I'm putting my Yeti cast iron skillets to work to make my game day favorites for friends and family. I'm talking chicken fried steak, skillet queso, and peach cobbler. And just like the Cowboys are forever, so are these heirloom cast iron skillets. Check out the full line of skillets on Yeti.com or at a Yeti store near you.
Every day begins with a promise to work hard and to build a future. That's why we're here, providing the tools, expertise, and John Deere equipment you have relied on for generations to help you get the job done right. We're with you. That's our promise to you, because no matter the project or the challenge you're facing,
we're with you. We're united.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change, a proud partner of the Cowboys, is faster than you think. They're so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's stay-in-your-car 10-minute oil change at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. That means you won't even have time to show off your best touchdown celebration. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
Back to the break.
Choose perfection. Choose LG OLED Evo. Check out the best TV in the game at LG.com.
Welcome back to the second segment of the break, and this is presented by blockchain.com.
Ding!
Thank you. Forget Chris is still out there. We need the dings sound. Sound effects back in the show. Okay, running game. This is something we've been expecting or wanting to see as well. Something happened with the injury with Jaden Blue. He was out. That is still not expected to be any major injury. They're keeping him out of precaution, getting him rehab and do all that, but it's nothing major. Now, during the process of this, they did bring back Malik Davis, and he joined the squad and was able to just called out really quickly and was asked to perform. And one of the guys that also played, Phil Maffa, he's a guy that I thought did a very nice job when you look at what he was doing, the way he was running, the way he was cutting. I was very pleased with what he did. Player specific, what is your evaluation of all the running backs that played in that game?
Bryan, let me just ask you this first.
Sure.
Would you say that Jaden Blue is locked in as the third guy?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. I would say there was maybe even a possibility of him being the second.
Yeah.
And I say that because I envision how they ran the ball with Davis is how they want to run the football. Sure. I think Maffa, to me, and Ambar, to your point, Maffa was really a complete back. He caught the ball, he blocked, and he ran well. Yeah. He's different, though, than the other backs. I think they vision having that burst and stuff like that. But I think for the first time out, I think Phil Maffa did a nice job. I kind of feel like that Blue – are you trying to tell me that maybe that Maffa would be the second guy, or maybe that Blue would be the first guy, Maffa be the second guy, and you're not going to worry about these veteran guys?
I'm saying that people are super excited about the running backs that we saw this weekend, but they're still like fourth and fifth guy. More than likely, or fifth and sixth guy, because Lipke might be your last running back.
Right.
So we're watching them and we're excited about Maffa. Right. We're excited about Malik Davis and what they did for you here, but they still got to go out there and fight for their life. I still think that those older guys are going to get the nod. I think Jaden Blue is as well, and Lipke. We've seen in camp how involved Lipke is. It's not just he's lining up at fullback and like that's his job. Like he's the motion guy for the most part. He's the shift guy for the most part. Yeah. So as excited as we are about Maffa and Davis, they still might be practice squad type guys, maybe, possibly. But I mean, they ran well, and on their biggest runs, I got to give credit to the offensive line. Bass and
Hoffman.
Hoffman, they did a really good job comboing on the inside, getting off to the linebackers. And when they blocked that thing nicely on the inside, that's when those big runs came. And, shouts out to Phil Moffitt because his running style is something that we can't see at camp because we can't tackle to the ground. So he finally got a chance to thump and move folks for a little bit, right? But I still think that those guys are fighting for their life, right? And poor Deuce, he gets on the field and we just going to run the ball all day. Yeah. And Milton kind of throws him a little screen here or there. You're not really helping Deuce. So I would love for the coaches to do is to give Deuce another fair shot at it and let him get his carries because he's also fighting. Yeah, the thing with Moffitt is, though, I think he has a different running style than all the other backs. He's totally different. And so that makes him unique in that way. But can you also, if you had to dress 48, is Hunter Lipke's running style similar to Moffitt's? And that's how you get Hunter Lipke on the field, and all of a sudden he becomes that kind of that power back. But I can't say anything wrong about Moffa. I mean, I didn't have high expectations of him, coming out of Clemson. There were other running backs I clearly liked in the draft. But, I mean, I appreciate what he did in that game the other day because, like I said, I think there was some complete elements to his game. He had a blitz pickup that gave Joe Milton a chance to get the ball to the outside. He ran the ball with some toughness, and he caught the ball. I wish that they would have had Deuce Vaughn in the game on that red zone screen down there. I mean, we talked about Bass and Hoffman. They just didn't get outside quick enough down there, or they might have had a little bit better play. Maybe you had a guy that had a little bit more wiggle to him, might have made the play. But you can't fault. I can say I'm excited about what I saw with Sanders, and I'm excited about what I saw with Blue. And then to me, like I say, Davis gave me that ability when he attacked and it showed quickness and explosiveness. That's how I think they envision this offense when it comes to running the football. Now, Brian, let me ask you something, because Phil Moffitt big as hell. Do you think he has a future on kickoff maybe to where he can try to, teams his way onto the roster? That's the thing about it is these guys, whoever is that third back, is going to have to play some special teams. Blue is a return guy at least. Blue's a return guy at least, but that's like I say. And now we're going to start to see, I think, more returns in the NFL because we've seen a little bit of, these kickers, and I was watching some of the games this weekend. Not everybody's just taking the ball out of the end zone anymore. The ball's now at the 35. They're trying to chip the ball down there in the corner and so the kickoff return element of the game, I think, is going to start to come back. So if you have guys that have that kind of ability, that might show up. One more thing about running back, if I may, please. Schottenheimer said something interesting the other day. I don't know if y'all heard him, but he was like, yeah, man, it was about to be an emergency, and we didn't have to get Crop to come be the emergency running back. Did you know, Jalen Cropper was possibly a running back to do some emergency things, Brian Broaddus? No, I did not know that. Did you see that in his, I forgot what school he went to. It was like Washington State or something? No, one of them pack schools? One of those pack. I did not see Cropper as a runner. I didn't see him at training camp. I know I try and kind of notice everything. Fresno State. Fresno school, by the way. Shotty let that slip a little bit. He said, we didn't have to go to Crop for the emergency running back situation. I was like, I might want to see that. He's a little bit bigger guy like that, so maybe you can't hand him the ball. Okay, my fault. Go ahead.
Well, Voch, since you keep bringing the coaching, let's just jump right into it, and then we'll go back to player evaluation. Mm-hmm. Coaching on both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. Again, this is the first time we see them kind of put something together. And keep in mind that what they're doing in the preseason is going to be different than what they do once week one is here. But based on some of the decisions that were made during the game, What are you feeling like? What are your thoughts on what the coaches did and are doing? So I'll say for Shotty, I want him to either find his groove as a play caller or let somebody else do it. I don't know if that's how he's going to call plays in real life. We'll have to get to week one to see. But, the Cowboys just never got in the rhythm. Like 3 passes off the bat, 3 and out, 3 passes off the bat, 3 and out. Now your defense is down. Now your running back can't get a rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Now your O-line doesn't really have a feel for what they're doing now. So I would like for Schottenheimer to go in the game too and kind of fix that a little bit. Eberflus, because he getting some too. All this week, they need to work on run fits and tackling. Yeah, I agree. Run fits and tackling. They need to work on not getting turned. They need to work on not getting 2 guys in the same gap. Right. They need to work on double teams, because if the league is watching film and they see your inside guys getting double teamed and moved all the way out the wazoo, then you would have to imagine double teams are coming. So we're going to have to work on those things. Turning, not turning and like getting washed, but like turning to beat the double team. Take a knee, get low.
make a pile, like those different double team beating techniques. They're gonna have to work on those because I think the league's coming for you.
I'll give them credit for two things. I think that to me they settled both units down though. There was some anxious moments, and I mean anxious for a preseason game where you're like going, gosh, this looks awful. But then they were able to kind of get, the defense were able to get a couple 3-and-outs. They looked a bit better. Maybe some things they said, okay, we can't do this. We got to try and do that. Offensively, a lot of the things offensively, the problems that you had, in my opinion, were because Joe Milton just was the way that he was kind of managing the game. And I mean, manage it with some of the throws initially with the first couple of series, his inability to really complete anything and kind of get you into a little bit of a rhythm. I got into discussion this morning with somebody about this on Twitter and about they feel like that this team isn't tough because the head coach isn't tough. And because his personality is not that way. And so, but I think all these coaches are different. I'm going to say this. I don't think this guy is Aaron Glenn. I don't. I see when you watch the Jets and Aaron Glenn on the sidelines the other day, against Green Bay, that looked like a tougher football team, a mentally tougher football team. So this guy is not going to be that way, but it's not to say that his team's not going to be tougher. I think the way he's practicing and trying to go about it, I think is a positive thing, the injuries have happened and all that, but I think he's doing things to try and make his football team tougher in that way. But I totally agree with Voch, though, on things they need to work on in the defense. The whole thing with the fits, this is all going to be about gap control and fits. If they're bad at their fits this year, this team will struggle playing the run.
I was just going to say real quick.
Yeah.
Just know that most things that are posted on social media doesn't really show the full picture of what is actually happening at camp. And if you want to take a look at that, I recommend you guys go out to Oxnard and watch a practice live, because there are moments where you'll hear that he is tough on these guys and the way that he will address the team. So two things don't necessarily need, being a jerk doesn't equate to you being tough. I think he knows how to handle the players. He's creating a really good
communications bit.
Communication, exactly, and he creating that culture for this team that we've always wondered. Oh, what's the culture? What kind of culture the Cowboys have? And I think that he's building on that, and he is tough. We've seen the players when, hey, run sideline to sideline, the punishment for fighting on the field, and the times that the players have to get down on the ground and do push-ups and things like that. So again, I don't think he's cuddling these players, but it's going to have to show up on the field on real game day as well.
I think the internet is looking for excuses. They're looking for reasoning right now. Like Tony Dungy is a tough coach, and he has an unreasonably nice face. You know what I mean? You just can't say.
Very quiet demeanor, though. Very Tom Landry-like, but kind of the same fiery type personality.
You just can't say that I think, first and foremost, Sean McVay's scheme eats talent alive. Like if you're gonna get to the regular season versus Rams, you're not gonna out scheme that. You need dudes to make plays. You need better dudes to beat dudes in front and like win matchups. That's how you beat Sean McVay. Robert Rochelle and no disrespect to you guys, Mozzie Smith, like they're not enough to beat that scheme. So when you see those guys getting pushed around, 3 techs don't normally get double team. 1 techs don't normally get double team. Like scheme wise,
that's all they did in that game.
Scheme wise is not much you can do with that situation, but get a better dude also would probably do better in that situation. That'll make the Rams do something different. Now your B gap guy's not getting double teamed. So there has to be a reaction from the Cowboys to make the Rams do something different. If the Rams keep doing one thing and it's working, then the Rams are going to keep doing that. And I can understand how that makes you look soft or whatever, but a better talent would deal with that. If you just take a look at the game, Perrion Winfrey didn't fall for the same kind of tricks that Toia fell for,
right?
Or Brown fell for, right? Like you just need talent to beat those. Perrion didn't play soft at all, and if you were in camp, you would see Shotty has to slow guys down something like, hey, we don't hurt each other type thing, right? So I don't want the internet to get too out of hand with, oh well, Shotty's Shotty cussed everybody out.
No, that's what the discussion I had this morning. I'm like, man, I'm like his personality is not that of an Aaron Glenn. It's just different. It's the way it is.
Yeah. Let's take our final break. When we come back, let's dive into the offensive line and what how are those guys currently looking? I know, Voch, during the time that you were out at camp, you couldn't stop talking about them.
I can never stop talking about the offensive line.
We'll talk about that after the break.
If you can't be at the stadium, there's no better way to watch your Cowboys than on an LG OLED Evo TV. That's because everything you see is more lifelike. Every play, every hit. I mean, you might as well be on the sidelines. That's how clear it is. It's all thanks to LG's legendary technology. Perfect black, over 8.3 million self-lit pixels. No one comes close. LG OLED Evo is the best TV in the game for a reason. See for yourself at lg.com/OLED Evo.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
As America's leading business lender, Bank of America is on your corner and in your corner. With over $9 billion in business loans and more than 140 business specialists right here in North Texas, we help businesses thrive so communities prosper. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com/local business. Bank of America, official bank of FIFA Club World Cup 2025. Copyright 2025 Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
From the field to the festivities, Lucchese embodies the essence of luxury and tradition. Handcrafted with meticulous precision, each pair offers unmatched comfort and style. Stand tall while you're tailgating or cheering in the stands with the Dallas Cowboys collection by Lucchese. Shop the collection today at the Lucchese store at the Star in Frisco or online at lucchese.com. Lucchese, the official boot of the Dallas Cowboys and Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
AT&T has a new guarantee because most things in life are not guaranteed, like getting through self-checkout by yourself.
Warning, each item must be placed in the bagging area.
Not guaranteed.
Place item in the bagging area. Place item in the bagging area.
You know what AT&T guarantees? Connectivity you depend on, deals you want, and service you deserve. Or we make it right. Terms and conditions apply. Visit att.com/guarantee for details. AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
Back to the break.
AT&T, connecting changes everything.
There's a lot of letters in these reads. AT&T, LG, OLED.
They're trying to confuse you.
They try to get you, man.
But we thank them for being on board with
I
us.
appreciate y'all dropping that bag on us. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
AT&T, they connect everything and everybody.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to the third and final segment of the break. We are jumping into the offensive line. Voch, I'll just throw it right at you because you've been waiting to see these guys perform, and then now you got to look at a live game.
Yeah.
What was your assessment?
I know Bryan was mad as hell watching those guys on the ground. Bryan hate offensive linemen on the ground, and there was a little bit of flopping around here and there. I think they're another group that had to settle down. I think the play calling kind of, offensive linemen need rhythm as well. We need rhythm as well, and sometimes you want to hit guys first and not get hit first. You know what I mean? So it's I think that was heavily impacted with those guys. I think continuity is important. I think Austin Richards kind of played everywhere.
Yeah.
He didn't get settled into one spot. I saw something pre-game that said he was taking snaps at center. I was like, that's new.
Yeah.
And when you see guys moving around like that, like when Josh Ball started playing guard or Walesko started playing guard, Austin Richards starts playing everywhere, including center. I mean, I don't know what that means for him. Nathan Thomas seems solid, but he'll fly out of his stance to try to catch somebody quicker. He needs to just, kind of relax in his set or just figure out the balance between urgency and relax, but he'll be fine. Like I said, Hoffman and Bass, they worked well on combos later in the game in the run department. That was fun to watch them. Bryan, you feel like Lael Collins wanted to just whoop people real bad and, he had to find his balance and get right. But when he caught some of those guys, it was a lot of aggression over there. What you think about La'el Collins, Brian Broaddus?
He looked like he hadn't played in a long time.
He looked off. Look, he just.
It was, and he hasn't played in a long time.
A little wonky.
In the workouts and stuff like that, we saw the power. He tried to do an old school Tyron Smith throw you up the field on a draw play, where Tyron sets and then turns and spins and just hammers that guy, and then they go flying up the field.
Lyle
tried to hit Muhammad on him one time, and Muhammad just stopped. It reminded me of catching a really heavy fish where you think you're going to set the hook and it just stops on you.
Yeah.
And Lyle caught his balance wasn't great. He looked a little bit more stiffer movement-wise than what I had seen. So the 6 plays that he got, I think that, and there was one time too, he went second level, got into the linebacker, and then kind of lost his balance. So it looked like a guy that hadn't played football in a long time. I will say this, Voch, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Please.
I thought that Austin Richards was the best lineman that they had.
I don't disagree. And he played everywhere.
And late in the game he played left guard, but he played left tackle. Now we could talk about the alignment stuff and all that, and you could clearly see it. And I couldn't tell from the sideline copy. It looked like to me that he was up on the ball, but then you look at the official to that side. The second time the official's like puts his hands up like I'm going to throw this flag again, but you could kind of see that but the things that Austin Richards was able to do, I was encouraged by. Bass and Hoffman, they played the whole game, and kudos to them. And then later in the game, Bass got some opportunity to play some center.
Didn't they switch a little bit?
They switched a little bit there. I like
what do you feel about Hoffman?
You know what? Hoffman is a backup, and Voch and I have talked about this a bunch. Hoffman for 2-3 games, just fine. Hoffman for 6 games, you're probably going to see some crazy moments there.
Sure.
But I started to see, like I say, because they didn't use Bass at all. Bass last year looked like he regressed. I think Bass is back to some of the level of play that we'd saw 2 years ago from him when he was an undrafted rookie. But I was encouraged by some of the things, the protection-wise. Where they had some of their biggest problems is when it turned into tight ends having to block in pass protection. They tried some max protect stuff to maybe give Joe Milton a little bit more time. But, man, it was – now, the Adeniji sack was a bad one. Sure. I mean, that was a one-legged football player, and he got knocked off balance, and he got run around there. And
he had a bad day, I think, altogether.
That was a really, really bad situation. But the Adeniji, the tight end staying in, those were some more of issues than really what was going on with the 5 guys throughout the day.
Now, Brian, we saw a bunch of different run looks. Like we saw some draws, we saw a counter, we saw a trap, and I thought about you when I saw a trap out there, Brian Broaddus. You think that this is them trying to figure out what run blocking situations work best for them?
I think we were all really gung-ho pin and pull guys, and then we kind of figured out that when you and we had a chance to visit with the coaches the third day of the draft, it's like, listen, if we can't pin and pull, we're not going to pin and pull.
Yeah.
But they're kind of trying to figure out what they have athletic ability-wise. They've got 2 really athletic tackles when you start to talk about with Steele and then what Guyton is going to be. So to me, that's, that if you can get these guys all together and start playing, the quicker the better, because that's going to be important. But I think they're searching for schemes and ways to run the ball. The draw play was really well executed. Everybody got to where they needed to be. The sets, they got everybody fanned out, and then they were able to attack.
Now, Brian, on the draw, did you notice the left tackle didn't just lead his guy to the field?
No.
He set, and then he ran up to the mic.
Exactly.
So I saw that, and I had to text Duke Manny Weather. I said, "Sir, is this new?" And he says, "People been doing it for years, but it's new here." So I was
new here.
I was shocked. So
they're trying to figure out what their guys can and cannot do, and I applaud coaches for trying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you saw a mixture of different things. So this is the time to try it. If any time to try it, this is the one. Okay, let's move into. We didn't really get into wide receivers. Anyone stand out to you at wide receiver?
Nah, because Joe Milton was throwing that thing everywhere. But like we said.
But looking at guys who were running and getting open, making sure they're open.
Flournoy did a really good job.
Or Mingo didn't get a chance again.
Mingo didn't get a chance. Trayshawn Holden is going to continue to separate himself, I believe. I think he's close to kind of making this thing, I think the other guys are kind of fighting him off right now. And if he keeps making plays in games and in practice, I think it's going to be hard to keep holding away from those guys.
Yeah, the way that it was pretty simplistic, some of the routes and stuff like that with the Mingo and things. The thing that the Flournoy interception down the middle of the field, that was Joe just like he was committed to throwing that pass. He was not interested in trying to check that thing down. He moved to his left and just let it fly. And, unfortunately, but Flournoy, the crossing route, give Brooks a lot of credit for his ability to open that thing up on the crossing route, because they go vertical with Brooks, and then they drag it with Flournoy, and it really put the Rams in some bad spots. Joe's got to hit that one. That's going to be a huge play. But yeah, I think overall, though, that you look at the receivers and they had some guys that played. I mentioned, you mentioned Holden. I think he did a very smart thing as a rookie. Mm-hmm. The ball, I mentioned the ball that went over the top to him on the sidelines, he did a great job of staying wide. Yeah. And he stayed along the sidelines, because if you drift to the middle, all of a sudden now you're bringing the safety into play. And Joe saw it, Joe read it, and Holden stayed along the sidelines, and then the ball was fit in right there where it needed to be, and they were able to make that play. So, there were some very positive things about these wide receivers. I just kind of feel like that it's like, who can you get? Tolbert going again? Can you get Mingo? Can you get? I mean, there's guys. These next 2 weeks, I think, they always say, oh, it's going to be a difficult situation. This might be a difficult situation for them at wide receiver, because I think there's some guys that are playing at a decent level right now. They just need to find ways to completely separate them from the other guys.
Now, Bryan Broaddus, if your last name was Schottenheimer going into this game too,
yeah,
do you prioritize Joe Milton reps, or do you prioritize giving the wide receivers looks?
You're saying, you're talking about putting Will Grier in the game and being accurate throwing the ball?
Yes, sir. Because if you want to give Milton reps, then he goes a whole nother 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
But your wide receiver, I didn't see much from Tolbert, and Tolbert was out there. He was around, but we didn't see.
He caught the screen, and it was like a -1 or something like that.
If your last name was Schottenheimer, do you let Dak call plays and let Grier get some more, and maybe he can get the ball around these guys so that we can get a look from the receivers?
Why would he let Dak call the plays?
Because it works. For Will Grier, it works.
But for himself, he needs those practices as well.
That's fair. I'm just being a commentary guy. That's 100% fair. Okay, so it's cool. That call plays better than Schottenheimer in the preseason. Fine. But do you? How do we get a better?
How do we evaluate?
These wide receivers?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is probably going to come down to practice reps, in practice, and what was maybe this week. What you need to do now is elevate some of those guys, just give some of these guys give the Mingos, give the Tolberts, give the Flournoys, give them more looks in practice with the ones, because I think Will Grier is going to play the whole game, the final game. Mm-hmm. That would be my bet. And maybe you're going to have some guys that are going to have to play, but the guys that are going to play in the final preseason game are going to be like Holden, Josh Kelly, guys like that. So those, it's not going to be. I don't know if it's going to be guys like with Brooks and others, but if it is in that final game, boy. But to your question, yes, I'm trying to find a way to kind of. To button this thing up at receiver.
I like Milton a whole bunch, but he's more like in 3 years for me.
Yeah.
Just me personally, I'm trying to see if I could take those traits and do some later on down the line. So by the time you hit your contract end, hopefully you'll be developed. But if I'm trying to go out there and get a look for my receivers or try to win a game or two, I'm going to go with Grier.
I don't disagree with you on that. As much as I like Joe Milton and how crazy it could be and the big playability.
Joe fun to watch. Did you see him running around?
Oh yeah, it's
running
fun.
Folk over.
But if you really want to evaluate your receivers, I think that Will Grier gives you a better shot right now.
Yeah, I think I give him a quarter next game.
Maybe two.
Maybe two. And then by halftime, I'm like, okay, let's switch it up.
The Ravens are no joke on defense.
Even
with their backup guys, this will be a big challenge for whoever plays quarterback in this thing.
They got 4 backup running backs better than all our guys. I was jealous as hell watching them, boy. Keaton Mitchell was going crazy. They got Ernest Johnson over, Ernest Johnson, and Rasheen Ali, the guy that we like from Marshall. Well, they got all those guys, and Derrick Henry ain't even playing. I was sick as hell watching the Ravens. They're gonna beat the hell out of us, boy. No, they're not gonna do that.
Well, before we end the show, real quick, I know we touched on defense at the beginning of the show. Is there any other name that either stood out to you in a good way or another name that needs to really put in the work for this upcoming game?
I'll talk about Perrion. I'll let Bryan talk about Maris if he wants to. But, Perrion jumped out to me, flashed to me. He got double teamed as well, but he beat those double team blocks and they tried to misdirect him. If anything, Perrion does need to settle down and use his eyes a little bit more because sometimes he'll kind of overrun some things. And Lil Fowler overrun some things too. But I really saw Perrion flash, and I think he's going to make the team. And I can respect his sense of urgency. Like, he's playing like a guy that's getting an opportunity after being in the league, leaving the league, going to the USFL, and getting back into the league. Like, he's playing like one of those guys. And if I can give a shout out to one of the later linebackers, Darius Harris, he's a veteran linebacker, plays solid for us, and Buddy Johnson made a cool coverage play or whatnot. So shouts out to those.
A couple
veterans.
Tackles on special teams as well for Buddy Johnson.
Sure did too. Look out for those linebackers.
Easy with the edges. Tyrus Wheat, I think, showed up really well. I think he played well run and pass. I think that was a positive. Veteran James James Houston was able to come in. I thought he showed some things as a pass rusher, ability to win, kind of played well against the run. Denzel Daxton, we haven't talked about him very much in training camp and all that, but if you talk about they're asking guys to come off the ball, be quick, get into the block, get into the gap, and try and free yourself, I think Daxton was a guy that all of a sudden it's like, man, he's making some things happen. He's trying to be disruptive inside. That was a good look for him for the preseason games. But late in the game, both in Toia, they got a little tall and then kind of got worked a little bit. But overall, I thought those two young guys they showed up on the film that I was watching.
And Liu Fao, he's a guy that I just love him. I love him. I love the way that he plays, and I am excited. That's what when I ask you guys at first, the first question, I'm like, that's a guy that I'm okay if he sits out the rest of the
But
preseason.
the thing with Maris, and this is what's the beauty of him, is how instinctive that he is able to play. But the thing that he sometimes will do is he will run under a block. He will try and gamble. He's almost like that cornerback that's kind of like be a little bit, I'm going to gamble for the interception here. I'm going to go for this. Maris, if they're going to play fits, Maris, you can't run underneath blocks and get pinned and then make the edge have to be, all of a sudden there's a gap. If you're going to take it on, and then force the back to have to make. But there was a couple of times there, Maris can read it quick, get there quick. But when he runs underneath blocks, and it happened a couple of different times, Shamar James did the same thing. Play with your hands, trust your eyes, extend, and get off the block and make the play. When you run under blocks and you get pinned, you're creating a big gap in your defense, and that usually ends up to being a big play with them running the football.
For sure.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back next. We'll be back on Wednesday. On Wednesday, that will be the last show for the week for this show, and then we'll get back next week, the following week, for that last week of training camp. For Voch, Lombardi, Bryan, Broaddus, and Ambar Garcia, this has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?